I just pushed it and now
Goes
it
faster.
goes red.
So, how many of you in this room tonight have ever dreamed about driving a cab in the city of Chicago? Amy, have you thought about it?
Actually, I did.
Well, I actually drove a cab about 12 or 13 years ago, and tonight I'm going to share some of my experiences with you. I remember it was the crash, or the year 2000, the stock market crashed. My work had slowed up a lot, and a coworker suggested we drive a cab to make extra money. And I had driven a cab in my early 20s, so I figured, why not? I'll give it a shot. So a few months later, I was on the road, I got my license, and I was driving a cab. And the cabs that I was driving were like the worst cabs in the city of Chicago. This is true. You could actually see the ground below the driver's seat. You could see through to the bottom. And they were unsafe too. Seriously, they were unsafe. But it was cheap, so I got on the road, and I kind of learned the business and found that the best places were Rush Street and stuff like this. And I remember one of my wild stories was it was about 2 in the morning, and I picked up this guy who was in nice dress and a suit and everything. He gets in my car and he's like, take me to Presidential Towers. And he's drinking a milk and he's eating a sandwich. And then he starts talking. You know, it's late. We start talking. He's like, I'm a private detective. I have a con and all this stuff. I'm like, really? So we're heading to Presidential Towers. We pull up at a light, and these 2 big farm boy guys in a pickup truck, they stop the red light. They start yelling at us and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And the guy, my detective, he's like, watch this. So at the next light, we stop, and the farm boy guys are like yelling. The detective rolls down his window and throws the milk and hits him in the face. And these guys are like this. Next thing you know, there's like smoke coming out of the ears, and they start chasing us through the city of Chicago. And I'm going down Wacker Drive, going through red lights, because these guys like want to kill us. And then we finally get into Presidential Towers, and they have like a circle you can drive around. I'm like hitting the horn, and finally security comes out. But these were the kind of things that would happen when you're driving a cab. I remember another day. It was just like any other morning. September 11th, 2001. It was about 10 a.m. I was listening on the radio, and as we all know, a plane crashed into one of the Twin Towers. I was like, wow. And then a little while, another plane crashed into the second tower. And right away, even as George Bush sat in that classroom for 7 minutes, I knew this country was under attack. So a short while later, I ended up at O'Hare Airport. There were thousands of people. They were stranded. They needed to get home. A few people they were begging me for rides. But I could only take 1 or 2. And as we came back to the city, I remember coming down Jackson, and there were thousands of people streaming from the city. You remember, Tim? Walking on the street and sidewalk. I was like, well, it's an image I'll never forget. So the rest of the day, I was going around, driving around the city, and it was actually, I told this story before, it seemed kind of exciting and fun for me, even though it's a horrible day. But I was picking up young damsels in distress, taking them home. Finally got home that night to my Humboldt Park apartment, and I relaxed for a little bit. And then I'm a jogger, so I ran to the Sears Tower. It was called the Sears Tower at the time. And I thought about what had happened, how the innocent people, how they had jumped to their death, how things would be different now. You know, we were at war. But still, I was going to try to achieve my goals, make my money back that I had lost in the stock. So the next day, the strangest thing about the next day was that people were actually nice to each other. I remember the next day, it was really slow, hardly any business, and I accidentally cut someone off downtown. And I remember this guy gave me this look like, how could you cut me off the day after 9/11? You're evil. But I wasn't evil. I was just a cab driver. Cab driver in a hurry. So over the next few months, business improved, started making money again. And I remember I was coming back from O'Hare, this time without a ride. I was just coming back in my empty cab back to the city. And there was a lot of traffic, and I ended up in the northwest side of Chicago. And this woman, she flagged me down. She's like, I need to go somewhere downtown or something. And I told her, I was like, wow, you're pretty lucky to catch a cab in the middle of nowhere. You just walk out on the street. That's pretty good. She's like, oh, not really. I'm a mystic. I just believe things and they happen. I was like, oh, really? So then, of course, we started talking about 9/11, and it was still fresh in everyone's mind. And she was like, George Bush, he's a heavy lifter. There's going to be a lot of death, a lot of war, and a lot of destruction. But after that, Al Gore's going to be the next president. I was like, really? Well, as we all know, there was a lot of death, a lot of war, a lot of destruction. George Bush, it is what it is. She was right about that, but she was wrong about Al Gore. He didn't become reelected. So I thought about all this stuff, and I thought about what are the lessons I learned over the past 12 years. And there's a few things that popped into my mind. The fact is, no one can predict the future. Sometimes in life you're dealt a curveball, you have to deal with it. Or maybe those that were unfortunate enough to be in the Twin Towers, a knockout blow. There's nothing you can do about that. And sometimes you have to start over, rebuild, and this and that. But I think, going back to Amy, one of the things I learned the most is that, just like y'all remember, there was another airplane, I think it was Flight 93, that crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. And the reason why it crashed is because the people in the plane, they didn't give up. They knew that plane was supposed to maybe head to the Capitol or some other destination to cause a lot of destruction, but they didn't give up. They crashed the plane into the field, saved a lot of lives. So, end of story. Always do your best. Never give up. Thank you very much.